Welcome to Tamer Bowling Video Ball Reviews. Hey Tamer Bowling fans, we are now on Patreon. For exclusive content, please join us at patreon.com/tamerbowling. Today we are testing the new Storm Physix. We are testing on a 40-foot medium house pattern and a 39-foot PBA Don Carter pattern. First impressions, the Storm Physix seems to find the formula to be strong but continuous. Unlike many of the typically top-end snow tire balls, there's another ball we recall with this motion, but more about that later. Don't hate me for the cliches yet, we'll get into detail. For value, we gave the Physix a B+. It's extremely difficult for a top-line ball to catch anything higher than a B for value from me, but enough of us liked it that much, and we're pleasantly surprised by some versatility we weren't exactly expecting. Overall, we gave the Physix a B+ on house shot, A on sport shot. What do we have here with the Physix? As you would expect, Storm's created a new top-line ball, and it's strong. Not the strongest thing ever, but that's a good thing. That's where it wins points compared to, say, a Surelock. The Atomic is a new ASIM core for Storm. However, the NRG cover technology is not new. It all started back with a virtual gravity nano, as they say, and anyway, this is a hybrid version. I do love Storm's hybrid cover stocks in general. They always feel like the sum more than the sum of their parts. I'll not say, this is length with good back-end and continuation like you always hear, but length with energy retention with this ball only comes from a style that either has a good flat spot at the bottom of the swing or with some speed. That will play out with our testers, as you'll see. For me, the simple truth is the ball looked great. When thrown decently, the ball does project through the fronts, feels really aggressive down lane. I start to liken the motion to vehicles, and this feels more like a high-powered GT touring sports car. It's not the nimblest thing, but more than enough. So if you can get it through the fronts, you'll be rewarded with awesome down lane motion. A couple of times I pinched it off, I just couldn't get it down lane, especially on the house shot. It will just go high or cross over. It has a very reliable or trustworthy down lane motion, and this gives you confidence to just throw it. But if you're prone to lifting or hitting up on the ball, you could wind up trying to force it down lane, which will hurt you. Sean was next, and while he almost exclusively shies away from so much ball and surface on house shots, he had zero problems getting the Physix to work. He didn't have to work very hard to get it through because he does generate nice projection. The ball just transitioned in a way that gave mid-lane control but rarely failed to charge back hard to the pocket. He can blow it through rarely where it just dies out. That would be a bad shot off his hand. Doug was next, and like Sean and I, he pretty much threw all strikes with the Physix. He didn't have to get deep on this fresh shot with this ball, but also he never felt like it was gonna quit. And that's the thing all three of us saw, no quit. You would expect it's possible, but a miss tended to be the ball hooking too much. In other words, just hooking up too early. But this ball looked really good for Doug. It reminded him of the Defiant Soul, and this is what I was referring to earlier. That was another fantastic hybrid top line ball that was more than the sum of its parts. And that ball was strong but predictable and always could be trusted to hook. When you trust the ball to hook, you relax and adjust to it. When you have to make a ball hook, that's when you can get into trouble unless you're one of those bowlers who are like maximum everything type style. But the movement was predictable, it didn't die, or wasn't too hard to get to the spot. And finally we have Bryan, and here's where the raving about the Physix came to a screeching halt. I initially had high hopes that Bryan would see something similar to his lock with the Physix. That's an absolute dream ball for him. He has two of them. His style allowed the ball to get down lane enough, but still drive with heavy turn. The Physix, not so much. For the first time for any tester, the ball kind of looked like a lumbering, strong piece that just dies out before it gets to the pins. It's like we were looking at a completely different ball. It was really a complete struggle for Bryan. We can argue it's not enough oil for the ball. Maybe he couldn't keep it in enough oil to store any energy. When he tried to get in, it just never made it up the hill. Kind of unsure why it was so vastly different, unless it truly is just significantly stronger than the lock, as he was able to throw that one easily on this pattern with no issues. But again, I'll try to talk about this in the closing. For the sport shot, we tested on the 39-foot PBA Don Carter pattern. You can actually attack this from multiple angles, and just as interestingly, the physics was flexible enough to do the same. I could play it up the outside and blend the touchier part of the pattern really well. I could move in and take advantage of the ball's strong down lane motion. So pretty flexible all in all. Sean also found it pretty easy to find the pocket, with forgiveness being generated from the ball's strong mid-lane torque, and that's kind of the hallmark of the ball. Doug saw the same motion with that punchy and predictable strength. We did notice that the ball, as expected, will break down a pattern like this, and the ball could easily become too much for this pattern within one game. Finally, Bryan threw the physics on the sport shot, and the struggle just didn't change much. He still had too much motion from direct, but opened the angles just slightly, and the ball just didn't store the energy for him. Occasionally, there are certain cover core shape combinations that just don't match up to a certain bowler or style. Clearly, Bryan just couldn't match up with the physics on our test patterns. Perhaps a higher volume pattern would allow the ball to store more energy naturally and have a better look for him. So there you have it with the physics. It got really strong marks from 3 out of the 4 bowlers. The 4th bowler struggled significantly to get any look at all. Ultimately, it's clear that while the physics is strong, if you're capable of projecting this ball through the fronts, it has a reliable move that doesn't feel lazy like a lot of snow tire type balls can feel like. If you like the Defiant Soul, you may take a liking to the physics as well. It's strong. It will burn up the fronts like a strong piece, but clearly has its place at the top of the heap, and in a way we could see easily fill the top spot in the bag, especially for bowlers with higher traps.
I need to tell you what Tamer Bowling Ball reviews